Hi, and welcome to Lesson 4, Appropriate Conditions for Using Mean, Median, and Mode. In our previous 3 lessons, we focused individually on each of these measures of central tendency and learned how to calculate and apply each of them. However, it is important to note that there are situations where one measure of central tendency will provide a better representation of a given data set. By the end of this video lesson, you will be able to conclude when the mean, median, or mode is the most appropriate measure of central tendency for a given set of data. Let's start off by going over the properties and uses of the mean. As we learned earlier, the mean uses all values in the dataset in its calculation, as the formula of the mean is the sum of the values divided by the number of values. Because of this fact, the mean is affected by extremely low or extremely high values called outliers. For example, extremely high values in a dataset can cause the mean to be higher, which may not provide an accurate picture of the data set. Another important item to note is that the mean cannot be used for data with open-ended class intervals. An open-ended class interval has an unspecified upper or lower class limit. For example, when looking at data associated with ages, an open-ended class interval would be something that states ages 54 and above. Next, let's take a look at the properties and uses of the median. The median is used to determine whether values fall into the upper or lower portion of the data set. Unlike the mean, the median is not as strongly affected by outliers. Also unlike the mean, the median can be used for data with open-ended class intervals. Now let's take a look at the properties and uses of the mode. The mode is used when the most typical case is desired, when you want to see what occurred most frequently in a given set of data. It is ideal for use with nominal data, which is categorical data that has no numerical meaning. Examples of nominal data include items such as gender and names of schools. Now let's take a look at some examples. In this first example, it states, below are Norma's grades for 7 quizzes in her history class. Which measure of central tendency best represents the data? In looking at the values, there are not any frequently occurring values, and we are not dealing with nominal data since we are looking at quiz grades, so the mode would not be the best option in this case. There are also not any outliers in this dataset which would prompt us to select the median, so in this case, the mean would be the best measure of central tendency. Now let's take a look at the second example. It states, below are the salaries in dollars of 8 employees at an accounting firm. Which measure of central tendency best represents the data? In looking at the values, there are not any frequently occurring values, and we are not dealing with nominal data since we are looking at salaries, so the mode would not be the best option in this case. We can see that there are extremely high values when compared to other values in the data set. In this case, 95,000 and 90,000 would be considered the outliers. If we use the mean, these outliers could greatly impact the mean, which would not provide a good representation of the data set. Since the median is less affected by outliers, the median would be the best measure of central tendency for this data set. Now let's take a look at this last example. It states, Miss Smith took a tally of the number of times different books were checked out of her classroom. Which measure of central tendency should she use? In this case, since Miss Smith is wanting to look at nominal data, which are the names of books, and she is also looking for the most typical case, the mode would be the best option for her in this case. Some important things to remember from this lesson are that the mean is affected by outliers, the median is affected less than the mean by outliers, and the median can be used for data with open-ended class intervals. And lastly, the mode is ideal for use with nominal data. This concludes our Lesson 4 video. Please feel free to go back and rewatch this video as many times as needed, and thank you for watching.